There are moments in time that feel like a collision of past and future, where we stand at the crossroads of what was and what's yet to come. This eclipse season is one of those moments. March 2025's eclipses in the signs of Virgo and Aries are gateways of transformation, where unfinished stories resurface and old echoes guide us towards new paths. There's a haunting familiarity in the air. It's as if we've been here before, yet everything is subtly different. A deep sense of déjà vu lingers, whispering that this is not the first time we've stood at this threshold. This eclipse season is not just about endings or new beginnings. It's about something much deeper. It's about breaking cycles that have defined us for far too long. With the South Node in Virgo, the details of the past refuse to stay buried. Fragments of memories, long-forgotten lessons, and unfinished threads weave their way into our present. Virgo demands precision, asking us to look closely, to dissect what we may have overlooked. But not just for the sake of nostalgia. This is about integration. The past isn't returning to haunt us. It's here to give us one last chance to get it right. This eclipse season is about discernment, understanding which habits, beliefs, and systems are worth carrying forward, and which ones have only served to keep us locked in survival mode. There's a shift in timelines as the world rewrites itself. Eclipses accelerate fate. They pull us into new realities at a speed that can feel dizzying. What was once stable may suddenly fall away. What seemed out of reach may come rushing in. This particular eclipse season carries the energies of a changing of the guard, where we'll likely see shifts in leadership, power structures, and societal frameworks. The old world is unraveling, but the new world remains undefined. This mirrors a personal shift as well. We are all being asked, what role are we playing in the changes unfolding all around us? Are we leading our own transformation, or are we waiting for the world to decide for us? There's an undeniable tension between the signs of these eclipses. Virgo reminds us of devotion, healing, and responsibility, the systems that sustain us, the habits that keep us whole, and the ways in which we serve something greater than ourselves. Aries demands sovereignty, courage, and action. It pushes us to claim our individual path, even if it means breaking away from what's expected. We are standing between these two forces, learning that service without self-awareness can become martyrdom, while independence without purpose can lead to reckless destruction. The lesson is balance, integration, and knowing when to serve and when to fight. The world itself is experiencing this crossroads moment. We see crisis after crisis unfolding, testing the structures meant to protect us. How well are we really prepared for sudden disruptions? Virgo's energy highlights health, food, systems, and order. Aries, on the other hand, reminds us that sometimes survival requires instinct, not just planning. From unrest in the natural world to leadership shifts, we are being called to pay attention, not just to what's breaking, but the patterns behind it all. What keeps repeating? What warning signs are being ignored? A choice lies before us: break free or repeat the cycle. As we move through this season, we are being asked to make decisions. Do we keep living in patterns of the past, feeding the same wounds, the same fears, the same mistakes? Or do we break free, stepping into a new way of being, even if it feels unfamiliar? Eclipses bring more than just change. They demand participation, whether in our own personal lives or on the world stage. What happens next is shaped by the choices we make now. This isn't just another eclipse season. It's a reckoning, a portal, a moment in time that years from now we will all look back on as the moment everything changed. Are you ready to step through? Eclipses act as cosmic gateways, where endings meet beginnings and the past intertwines with the future. They serve as portals that open up new pathways and close old ones, where the fabric of fate and free will intertwine. During an eclipse, the sun, moon, and earth align in a way that creates a moment of profound cosmic recalibration. This alignment takes place near the lunar nodes, astronomical calculations where the moon's orbit crosses the ecliptic, the apparent path of the sun. These nodes serve as gateways, points of fate and destiny, initiating major shifts in both personal and collective timelines. Eclipses amplify the forces of transformation, signaling both the end of outdated cycles and the birth of new ones. They weave together light and darkness, mirroring the human experience of consciousness and the unconscious. Eclipses both conceal and reveal, distorting our perception in the moment while setting the stage for deeper truths to emerge. During solar eclipses, the moon momentarily blocks the sun, symbolizing a disruption in clarity, a brief pause where something vital is hidden from view. Yet paradoxically, what is obscured can eventually lead to revelation, as it forces us to see beyond surface-level reality. Lunar eclipses, where the Earth casts its shadow over the moon, bring buried emotions and subconscious patterns to the forefront. But these revelations don't always arrive instantly. Like an imprint left in the dark, the deeper meaning of an eclipse often takes time to surface. What is initially hidden may take weeks, even months, to fully integrate. The word eclipse itself means to obscure, yet it is through this temporary darkness that we are guided to look beyond the obvious, to question, to reassess, and to recognize truths we may have otherwise overlooked. The full impact of an eclipse rarely reveals itself all at once. Instead, its meaning develops gradually, often becoming clearer as future eclipses in the same sign or axis unfold. Each eclipse builds upon the last, deepening the narrative and uncovering more layers of its lessons. It may take multiple eclipse seasons to fully grasp the themes at play, highlighting the ongoing dance between fate and free will, where we are given opportunities to engage with these cosmic shifts in new ways. Throughout history, eclipses have been viewed with awe, reverence, and at times, fear. Many cultures saw them as omens or divine interventions, capable of altering the course of fate. The ancient Babylonians tracked eclipses, believing they could foretell the downfall of kings. In other traditions, eclipses were seen as celestial battles between light and dark, moments when the cosmic order was momentarily disrupted. These interruptions frame eclipses as turning points, moments when the ordinary flow of life is subject to sudden shifts, and when destiny itself seems to hang in balance. At the heart of every eclipse lies the celestial dance of the north and south nodes of the moon, known in Vedic mythology as Rahu and Ketu, the head and tail of the cosmic dragon. Rahu and Ketu represent two polar forces in human experience: attachment and detachment, hunger and surrender, worldly ambition and spiritual liberation. Rahu, the north node, is insatiable, always seeking and never satisfied. It represents karmic desires, obsessions, illusions, and the area of life where we experience intense, unquenchable cravings for growth and experience. Rahu pulls us towards what is unfamiliar, urging us into new territory, often through chaos, obsession, or unorthodox means. Ketu, the south node, is the opposite. It governs where we have already been, the wisdom accumulated from past lifetimes, and the need for spiritual surrender. Ketu represents detachment, introspection, and the dissolution of the ego, often through loss, disillusionment, or an instinctual rejection of worldly attachments. Together, Rahu and Ketu form this karmic axis, dictating the path of evolution in both personal and collective timelines. They act as catalysts for fated events, revealing where we must grow and where we must release. This axis, ever shifting, defines the lessons we are meant to integrate, shaping the cycles of destiny that play out at both an individual and global scale. The 18-year cycle of the lunar nodes brings us back to themes or challenges that were prominent nearly 2 decades ago. By reflecting on what was unfolding in our lives the last time the nodes occupied these exact positions, we can uncover patterns and lessons that are now re-emerging. The cyclical nature of time suggests that while new challenges arise, they are often variations of fundamental themes we've encountered before, offering continuous opportunities for growth, healing, and resolution. The concept of fate versus free will is particularly potent during eclipses. While the events that unfold may feel fated, our reactions to them, our ability to integrate the lessons offered, rely heavily on our experience of free will. Eclipses challenge us to navigate our destinies, offering critical moments where our decisions can alter our path forward significantly. As we approach the total lunar eclipse on March 14th, 2025 at 24 degrees Virgo, and the solar eclipse on March 29th, 2025 at 9 degrees Aries, we witness a striking reoccurrence of the March 2006 eclipse sequence. The alignment of astrological signs, degrees, and even exact dates highlight a powerful cyclical pattern, one that evokes a sense of déjà vu, urging us to reflect on past global events and anticipate the reemergence of key themes under similar celestial influences. In March 2006, the world navigated the spread of H5N1 avian influenza alongside intense and destructive events, including wildfires in Texas and tornado outbreaks across the U.S. These crises reflected the astrological themes of Virgo: health, order, service, and Aries, action, initiation, and crisis. Today, as we face new viral threats and widespread environmental destruction, these echoes serve as a reminder of the cyclical nature of challenges and the lessons they bring. Virgo and Aries, though seemingly at odds, one meticulous and measured, the other impulsive and action-driven, are being called to work together this eclipse season. Virgo's South Node presence encourages the release of over-perfectionism and analysis paralysis, creating space for Aries' instinctual drive to take bold, decisive action. Virgo's focus on wellness, paired with Aries' raw life force, urges a return to foundational health practices, strengthening both the body and the mind to support adaptability in uncertain times. This is a time to examine what major shifts, challenges, or themes were presented for you in early 2006. Are similar situations arising now, offering a second chance for resolution? What lessons from that period are now coming full circle, either for integration or release? By drawing connections between these eclipse cycles, we gain deeper clarity on how our journeys are evolving and where we are being called to move forward. These eclipses illuminate the interplay between personal transformation and collective change. Just as global events mirror astrological cycles, our personal stories follow similar patterns. Recognizing these connections allows us to approach both inner and outer shifts with greater awareness and adaptability. The echoes of 2006 and 2025's eclipse season serves as a powerful reminder that cycles don't just repeat, they evolve. By working with the combined energies of Virgo and Aries, we can navigate these times with both precision and courage, aligning thoughtful action with robust health and resilience. Through conscious engagement with these eclipse energies, we don't merely observe history repeating. We shape the unfolding narrative, transforming past lessons into stepping stones for a more empowered future. On March 14th, the total lunar eclipse in Virgo, also known as a blood moon, will illuminate the night sky. Positioned less than 5 degrees from the South Node, this eclipse urges us to release the old and reconnect with our physical essence as we navigate ungrounded cosmic energies. Eclipses are known to sprinkle synchronicities along our paths, nudging us toward deeper introspection and alignment with our life's true course. This blood moon forms a near-exact trine with Uranus and Taurus, shaking loose what has grown too rigid and forcing evolution where we may have been stagnant. Uranus, the great awakener, delivers breakthroughs that can feel disruptive at first, but are ultimately designed to realign us with authenticity. In Taurus, this energy may focus on physical resources, stability, and what we consider secure, whether in finances, relationships, or personal values. This theme is further emphasized by Venus, the ruler of Taurus, which is currently retrograde in Aries and preparing to return to Pisces. Venus's retrograde motion suggests a deep reevaluation of what we truly desire, where we may have misaligned priorities, and whether our relationships and financial structures still support our evolving needs. With Uranus in the mix, these revelations may come suddenly, pushing us out of our comfort zones and demanding a new level of adaptability. This trine offers an opportunity to work with change rather than resist it, using instability as a catalyst for deeper personal and collective transformation. What initially feels like a disruption may ultimately be the exact shift we need to move toward greater authenticity and alignment. As the Sun in Pisces aligns closely with Saturn, this conjunction casts a heavy, sobering energy over the eclipse, pressing us to confront both our limitations and responsibilities. The Sun represents clarity and consciousness, yet in Pisces, its light diffuses into the ether, making it harder to discern tangible direction. Saturn, however, demands structure, discipline, and accountability, acting as an anchor in the dreamlike haze of Pisces. This alignment asks, where have we let things slide? What must now be addressed, reinforced, or solidified? We also must navigate the tension between surrender and control. The Sun's close proximity to both the North Node and Neptune adds layers of complexity. The North Node urges forward movement, emphasizing the need to embrace an emerging destiny, while Neptune dissolves certainty, making it difficult to distinguish between intuition and illusion. The conflicting energies of this conjunction create an effect much like the Tarot's Seven of Cups, a landscape filled with multiple choices, all shrouded in mist, making discernment critical. Are we being presented with divine inspiration, or are we being led down a path of self-deception? Remember, not all that glitters is gold. Saturn's presence ensures that we cannot drift aimlessly forever. At some point, the weight of reality will settle in, demanding clarity and accountability. This aspect is about striking a delicate balance, honoring the unknown without getting lost in fantasy, enforcing structure without suffocating potential. Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces in its home sign signals a culmination of a 165-year cycle, a threshold between disillusion and renewal. The anaretic degree carries a sense of urgency, amplifying Neptune's most potent, nebulous, and enigmatic qualities. At this critical juncture, illusions may dissolve, spiritual revelations may surface, and reality itself may feel increasingly fluid, pushing us to surrender into the unknown. At this threshold, Neptune is both unveiling profound wisdom and testing our ability to see through illusions. The waters of Pisces, already boundless, now feel limitless, drifting between transcendence and deception. This is the moment before a tide turns, when something vast and elusive is reaching its peak before slipping away. Are we on the verge of a great awakening, or are we being deceived into a false sense of comfort? Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces can manifest as both deep spiritual revelation and mass confusion, truths hidden in plain sight, waiting with those for keen discernment to uncover them. This energy invites us to embrace uncertainty, to trust in what we feel but yet cannot prove, and to surrender to something greater than ourselves without losing sight of reality. It's difficult to separate the energies of the Sun, Saturn, Neptune, and the North Node because they're all working together and at odds at the same time. The Sun, a force of illumination, sits near the North Node, emphasizing themes of destiny and forward movement, but Neptune blurs the path ahead, making it difficult to grasp what's real and what's wishful thinking. Meanwhile, Saturn wants order and structure. It wants to build something lasting, but in Pisces, it struggles to create solid foundations when the ground beneath it feels like shifting sand. This configuration creates a paradox. Do we move forward on faith alone, or do we hesitate until we have proof? The Sun and the North Node seem to push us towards a vision of the future, but Neptune complicates the message, making it hard to trust. Saturn wants us to be accountable for the mess, for the things we overlooked or allowed to dissolve, and it's also tasked with making sense of a landscape where traditional logic may not apply. This is the challenge of the eclipse, to walk forward without a map, to hold steady amidst uncertainty, and to build something real while knowing that some things must remain fluid and some things must be released. With so much energetic movement unfolding, this eclipse emphasizes the need to clear space, physically, mentally, and emotionally, to properly navigate what's ahead. Without space, there's no room for clarity, no ability to integrate, and no foundation for what's next. This is a time to simplify routines, declutter physical and emotional baggage, and create space to process the deeper shifts occurring. Reflect on habits, well-being, and the ways we give our energy to others, ensuring it's sustainable and in alignment on a soul level. This eclipse isn't just about endings. It's about creating the necessary conditions for new beginnings. Virgo's meticulous nature invites us to ground our actions into the physical world while remaining open to intuitive guidance. This balance between practical action and spiritual alignment sets the stage for the transformative cycle leading into 2027, ensuring we step into the future with both clarity and purpose. Chiron is the hidden key to this eclipse season. Chiron, often referred to as a key, plays a pivotal role in this eclipse season, not just as a background influence, but as a bridge between past pain and future healing. In the Virgo lunar eclipse, Chiron in Aries forms an inconjunct to the moon, a challenging aspect that forces us to confront blind spots, subconscious defenses, and deeply embedded wounds that have shaped our perceptions and choices. Virgo seeks to analyze, refine, and heal, while Chiron in Aries highlights where our wounds have led us to act from a place of fear, reaction, or self-doubt rather than clarity. We could easily overlook these subconscious details, allowing old patterns to operate beneath the surface as we move forward without fully addressing them, or we can face them once and for all, breaking the cycle and unlocking a deeper level of clarity and empowerment. This eclipse magnifies what's ready to be seen, inviting us to either integrate or repeat. This lunar eclipse marks a turning point. What we choose to release physically, emotionally, mentally, and energetically will shape the foundation we stand on as we step into the next phase of our journey. Before we can fully step into the next chapter, there is still one final test, one last confrontation with the past that must be faced. As we move from the Virgo eclipse into the Aries eclipse, Chiron remains at the heart of the story. But this time the focus shifts from recognizing wounds to actively reclaiming personal power. The final Aries eclipse is the culmination of a wounded warrior's journey. On March 29, 2025, we reach the final solar eclipse in Aries, marking the conclusion of a nearly 2-year cycle that began in April 2023. This moment closes the chapter on Aries-Libra themes: self versus relationships, independence versus compromise, assertion versus balance. This is a threshold moment, clearing the stage for Neptune's monumental shift into Aries the very next day, ushering in a new era of vision, action, and identity. Yet before we can fully embrace the future, this eclipse forces us to confront something unfinished from the past. This Aries eclipse is the final act of a long process, closing a chapter that began in April 2023, while simultaneously completing a shorter 3-part Mars-Chiron square that began in October 2024. The ruler of this eclipse, Mars, has recently stationed direct, adding momentum, but not without forcing a reckoning with wounds that still linger beneath the surface. At the time of the Aries eclipse, Mars forms its third and final square to Chiron in Aries, marking a critical confrontation with themes of self-assertion, independence, and personal power. What makes this moment even more significant is that the first Aries solar eclipse in April 2023 also featured a Mars-Chiron square, but that was an opening square of their last cycle. Now, in March 2025, the same aspect resurfaces, but with an entirely different level of awareness. It's like we have been granted a second chance to integrate the lessons we may not have fully grasped before. Mars, the ruler of Aries, is still in Cancer, the sign of its fall, forced to fight battles through emotion, intuition, and indirect action. Meanwhile, Chiron, the wounded healer, remains in Aries, the sign of the self. The tension between these placements highlights the ongoing struggle between vulnerability and strength, protection and action, healing and self-determination. This signifies a turning point, a moment where we must ask, are we still fighting the same battle, or are we finally ready to move beyond it? Let's look back at the Mars-Chiron timeline to understand what wounds are being exposed, confronted, and healed. April 19, 2023, we had a solar eclipse at 29 degrees of Aries. Mars was in Cancer, square Chiron in Aries. A wound was exposed, something deep within us, perhaps a fear of independence, hesitation to take action, or an unresolved personal battle was triggered. It may have felt like an opportunity for something new, yet tangled in emotional baggage that kept us from fully moving forward. October 2024, Mars entered its pre-retrograde shadow and formed the first of 3 squares to Chiron. This set the stage for what we would later return to, a trigger or source of discomfort, agitation, or deep-seated wounds that surfaced but had yet to be fully understood. February 2025, Mars squared Chiron the second time. This time it was retrograde. This was the moment we could no longer ignore whatever that trigger or agitation was. Instead of pushing forward, we were forced to slow down, revisit the wound, and acknowledge its deeper roots. March 29th, 2025, with the final eclipse in Aries and the final Mars-Chiron square. This is it, the final confrontation, the moment where we must decide. Do we keep carrying the wound, allowing it to shape our choices and identity, or do we finally release it and step into the unknown? So to further illustrate the significance of what is playing out here, the first Aries eclipse in April 2023 took place with Mars in Cancer, square Chiron in Aries. And now, as we reach the final Aries eclipse of this cycle, Mars is once again in Cancer, squaring Chiron in Aries. It's as if the universe is handing us a second chance. This is the last Aries eclipse until 2032. This is Mars and Chiron's final square from Aries and Cancer, a cycle that has played out roughly every 2 years since 2019, marking key opening squares from their conjunctions in Aries. A story that began years ago is now reaching its final act, and the patterns that have shaped our choices, both individually and collectively, can no longer be ignored. The last time these 2 planets were in this dynamic, we might have hesitated, second-guessed, or fallen into old cycles. Now, we stand at a crossroads once again, but with 2 years of lessons behind us. So, will we choose differently this time? Will we break free or stay stuck? The choice is ours. This isn't just about healing wounds. It's about who we become when we stop fighting old battles. There's a fine line between perseverance and stagnation, between fighting for something that still matters and clinging to a battle that only drains our life force. Do you want to keep fighting for something that you've already outgrown? Or is it time to redirect that energy towards something new? This Aries eclipse presents us with a choice. Stay in the past, locked in old wounds and defensive patterns, repeating the same battles over and over, or take a leap forward, shedding the emotional armor that no longer serves us, and stepping into a more empowered version of ourselves. This is the culmination of a cycle that has been testing us for 2 years. And when Neptune enters Aries the very next day, the vision of what's possible shifts. But we cannot carry the weight of the past into this new era. So as this final Aries eclipse approaches, will you walk away from the fight that's already been won? Will you finally step into the power that's been waiting for you all along? The battles we fight within ourselves are often mirrored in the world around us. Just as we face decisions about which struggles to continue and which to leave behind, nations, leaders, and global powers are confronting these same questions. The Aries eclipses that we've been moving through since 2023 have shaped the world events in profound ways. Aries, the sign of war, revolution, pioneers, and autonomy, has mirrored global tensions and shifts in power. Over the last 2 years, battles for independence and sovereignty have intensified, while financial power plays and emerging technologies have redefined control on both personal and collective levels. This eclipse is a turning point for the world. Just as we are being asked to release old wounds and step into a new era of self-empowerment, the world is undergoing a parallel process, a reckoning with war, control, power struggles, and who gets to shape the future. Which wars will continue and which will reach their breaking point? Which leaders will rise and which will fall? Will AI, technology, and finance be used as tools of control or means of liberation and independence? The Aries-Chiron square that occurred 2 years ago triggered deep wounds, not just for individuals, but for entire nations and societies. This eclipse forces a decision. Do we keep repeating the same conflicts and power struggles? Or do we finally pivot toward a new way of operating? This is a battle for autonomy on both personal and global scales. Aries is warrior energy, but in today's world, battles are increasingly fought through data, digital infrastructure, and economic systems rather than physical force. Of course, that still exists too. We're standing at a crossroads, the warrior versus the machine. Will AI and the financial systems empower individuals, creating more sovereignty, or will they be wielded by centralized forces to restrict freedom under the guise of efficiency? Aries governs raw action and sovereignty, while Chiron's influence exposes wounds related to self-sufficiency and independence. Digital finance like CBDCs, decentralized currencies, or AI-driven markets could either liberate or consolidate power, depending on who holds the keys. This final Aries eclipse will reveal what comes to an end and also what replaces it. The choices made now will define who holds the power in the years to come. The Aries eclipse on March 29, 2025 is a moment of reckoning. Wars have expanded. The lines between human and machine continue to blur. Global power structures are shifting, some consolidating into fewer hands, while others break apart, forging new pathways. Who has the power to decide what comes next? This eclipse demands action, but what kind? Are we truly stepping into greater sovereignty, or are we moving deeper into a new kind of control? We have a choice: break free or repeat the cycle. This is a moment of closure and integration, the final decision point in a story that began nearly 2 years ago. What first ignited in April 2023 that set this chapter into motion? How has that theme played out? What fears, traumas, and subconscious narratives now demand resolution? What are you carrying that no longer belongs in your future? This is the moment to choose. Do you carry the weight of the past forward, or do you finally set it down? If we move forward blindly without reflection, we may find ourselves repeating the same cycles. If we act with intention, we can finally break free. The past 2 years have tested us. They forced us to face our deepest wounds, the hardest lessons, and the battles we never thought would end. But the truth is, they end when we decide they do. How many times have you fought the same battle? Not just externally, but within yourself. The same doubts, the same fears, the same struggles, repeating like a script you never agreed to, yet somehow can't stop acting out. The same patterns in relationships, the same struggles with self-worth, the same cycles of proving, defending, and protecting when no one is actually attacking. For some, this battle started in childhood. For others, it was a defining moment, a heartbreak, a betrayal, a loss that changed the course of everything. And what happened next? We adapted, we protected ourselves, we became warriors because we had to. At first, it felt like survival, like reclaiming power. But somewhere along the way, the fight became the identity. The armor got heavier, the defenses never lowered, and the battle never ended because the wound was never given a chance to heal. It's an unconscious battle when survival becomes the enemy. When we act from an old wound, we aren't making choices. The wound is making them for us. Reacting to an old fear, reacting to an old betrayal, reacting to something that isn't even happening at the present moment. That's the deception of trauma. It doesn't stay in the past. It bleeds into the present, distorting reality. We see threats that don't exist. We defend against attacks that aren't coming. We hold on to armor that only weighs us down. We become imprisoned where we once found protection. And as long as we keep fighting the past, we never fully get to live in the present. So, where does our energy go now? Imagine a life where you are no longer controlled by the old wound. That's the power of this eclipse. It's not just an Aries moment of initiation. It's the last stand of a wounded warrior, the final battle between who you were and who you were becoming. Are you finally ready to walk away? To put the armor down, to stop proving yourself, to stop reacting to an enemy that no longer exists, to step forward, empowered and free? The Aries eclipse may feel like a powerful conclusion, but it's not the end of the story. So what comes next? The Pisces Virgo cycle takes center stage, unfolding through 2027. While Aries has demanded decisive action, these upcoming eclipses will shift the battle inward, forcing us to confront what cannot be solved through force alone. Each eclipse is a piece of a larger puzzle. By the time 2027 arrives, we will have moved through a series of eclipses that challenge us to refine the balance between structure and surrender, logic and faith, practicality and transcendence. The Pisces Virgo eclipses will force us to ask deeper questions. How do we merge spiritual insight with real-world application? Are we structuring our lives in ways that allow for both spiritual connection and practical well-being? Can we find a balance between intuition and realism? The eclipses over the next couple years will highlight different aspects of this axis, sometimes leaning more towards Virgo, and other times leaning more towards Pisces. Each eclipse is another chapter, revealing how we care for our bodies and minds, how we connect to the unseen, where we need more order, and where we need to flow. The push and pull of these energies will also bring forward another critical theme: what we must surrender and what we must integrate. But beyond the personal level, this cycle will bring major collective changes, some of which have already been hinted at. The coming shifts will take us into 2027. So what's on the horizon? More awareness of the mind-body connection. The Virgo eclipses will call attention to health, wellness, daily habits, and discipline. Expect major cultural shifts in medicine, holistic health, and people may redefine what healing really means, physically, emotionally, and psychologically. The Pisces eclipses will shift our perception of reality, eroding false narratives and reshaping our understanding of this existence. What is real and what's a mirage? These eclipses will bring both revelations and deceptions, forcing us to navigate an era where truth is distorted and perception is manipulated. We must learn how to integrate both logic and intuition, to discern when to rely on hard data and analysis and when to trust our gut instincts and inner knowing. Mastering this balance will be key to navigating the changes ahead. This is where things will start to get even more strange. Virgo governs classification, systems, and organization, while Pisces rules mysticism, the unknown, and what lies beyond. In 2006, just 2 days after a South Node Virgo eclipse, Pluto was reclassified as a dwarf planet. With Virgo eclipses returning until 2027, will we see another wave of planetary reclassifications? What about otherworldly entities, UFOs, and cosmic discoveries? Are we on the verge of redefining what exists beyond Earth? Or will new scientific discoveries challenge our understanding of reality itself? Pisces dissolves boundaries, including the boundary between fact and fiction, Earth and beyond. We may be forced to reconsider what we thought previously. Water has always been a source of life, but in the coming years, it may also become a source of power struggles, scarcity, and control. Pisces governs the oceans, floods, and the unseen currents that shape our world, both literal and metaphorical. With eclipses highlighting this domain, we may see concerns over rising sea levels, intensified storms, and the privatization of water resources. Who truly owns the Earth's most essential element? Will access to clean water become a matter of human rights or financial control? These questions will only grow louder in the coming years. So how to prepare for the next 2 years? This next phase requires a different kind of preparation. Keep a journal, track patterns and themes that emerge, reflect on dreams, intuitive hits, health changes, and emotional cycles. Notice where you're resisting order and when you need to surrender. Pay attention to health and wellness. Virgo wants clean, intentional living. Sensitive Pisces asks us to be mindful of what we consume, both physically and energetically. Cultivate discernment. We are entering a time of increased illusion and information warfare. Virgo asks, what's the source? What's provable? While Pisces asks, what feels true in your soul? Pisces and Virgo will teach us how to heal, discern, and how to surrender to something greater. Do we trust the unknown, or do we demand proof? Do we seek control? By 2027, the world will look very different than it does today. It's easy to keep our eyes fixed ahead, searching for signs of what's to come. But when we are so focused on the road ahead, we risk forgetting to check the rear view, where the details we've overlooked, the lessons we've already learned, and the wisdom of our past experiences quietly reside. This is where Virgo's message becomes crucial. The South Node in Virgo asks us to pay attention, not just to where we are going, but to the small details we may have neglected, the insights buried beneath the surface, the whispers of past lessons that can guide us through uncertainty. Because when things stop making sense, when we feel like we are moving through thick fog, or as though reality itself is shifting before our eyes, it's not the outside world that will provide clarity. That clarity must come from within. In times of confusion, our internal compass is our strongest ally. It's not dictated by the chaos of the external world or by the shifting narratives that try to pull us in different directions. It's rooted in something deeper, our intuition, our morals, our undeniable knowing of what's true, even when the world tries to convince us otherwise. But a compass is only as useful as the one who holds it, and if we don't have our health, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, we don't have anything. The Virgo-Pisces axis reminds us that every part of our being is connected. Our thoughts affect our body affects our emotions affect our energy, and our energy affects the reality we create. As we move forward into a time of change, with energies we have never experienced in modern history, we must stay anchored in the one thing that will always remain constant: ourselves. Physically, this means taking care of our bodies, nutrition, movement, rest, and detoxifying from what weakens us. Mentally, it means discerning between truth and illusion, being aware of what we consume, media, information, conversations, and how it shapes our perception. Emotionally, it means healing wounds that distort our reality so we do not navigate life through the lens of old fears or subconscious pain. Spiritually and energetically, it means maintaining a connection to something greater, whether it's the wisdom of nature, the guidance of our higher self, or the quiet knowing that exists beyond words. This next chapter requires presence and the ability to stay rooted, even when the tides shift and the world feels unrecognizable. You are your own guiding light. No system, no structure, no external force can dictate your path. The answers you seek are not outside of you. They never were. So as we move forward through the unknown, trust yourself. Keep your foundation strong, and never forget that even in the darkest night, you carry the fire within you to light the way. We began this journey with a feeling, an echo of the past, a whisper of something familiar yet new. There are moments in time that feel like a collision of past and future, and this is one of them. We are standing at a threshold of what was and what could be. The question is no longer whether things will change, they already are. So how will you show up? Will you resist, clinging to what's familiar, even if it no longer serves you? Or will you step forward, aware, empowered, and ready? Years from now, we will look back at this time as a turning point, the moment we stopped waiting for fate to decide and instead chose our own path. Because the future is not something we enter, it's something we create, and the time to create it is now. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this has inspired you, share your thoughts. Send this video to someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more astrological explorations, and join me in shaping the future, one lucid step at a time. Until next time, stargazers and truth seekers.